Hello guys, so I was looking at the Reddit and I found this very interesting page who I think might be nice just to re-explain the elemental advantage that a lot of people have. So I'm going to be putting down the description below and I'm just going to go down just in case any of you has any questions or any of you didn't know any of these things. Again, if you have any questions or comment or something you don't understand, write it back down in the comment below and I can also explain that. Plus, it reminds me of the value I had forgotten, who was now 50% for Reflex. So this is going to be really talking about elemental advantages and how much damage output you're going to be able to do. This is pretty helpful for midline units, strikers too. Again, if you're just looking at striker, there's already an online calculator for that. So I would advise just going to that. It's pretty easy to find on the forums and on the Reddit. I'm pretty sure we did a video on it too. So this is going to be talking to you about elemental advantages like beats thunder, thunder beats warm. Just look at this. It's pretty obvious to me. Now, what they're trying to say is, how does the reflex mechanic work? So if you reflex, you can survive even if you have a single point of life, and you maintain the action bar at 100%. If you're stealing, if you steal when they attack you, you keep the action bar you had before they attacked you. The chance to steal is 1 every 100 reflex, and now it's been capped at 50%. It's the value I'd forgotten. It was once a while, it used to be 90, then it got 80, now it got 50. It's really just starting to go down, 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 downhill. Still, 50 isn't that bad, but it's just not as good as it used to be back in the day. That's why a few COD comps don't work anymore. So again, thanks to Yachiman and these three guys. I'm sorry, I don't really know which one specifically did this, but again, I want to thank the people for doing this because it honestly looks pretty damn great. So, how does one calculate damage? Base dribble, including only chains. As I've always said, chains are calculated in the base. This is why chains are extremely powerful, and you should always try to have the maximum amount. That means that any buff or debuff is going to be applied over the chain value. So then buffs and debuffs, it's simple. It's 1 times 1 plus the buff minus the debuff, and then you multiply that. So if you have a 40% buff, then you add a 40%. Now, if you have something that's dribble and attack power, that gets just a little bit more complicated. But just dribble 40% makes it pretty easy. Did your unit receive a pass? Now, if for anyone who doesn't know, passes give damage even if they're from really weak unit. It doesn't just need to be from Balteon or Askeladd or any legendary pass, or even weak units give small pass values, so you still want to keep that in mind. If they do, you're going to be looking at the pass. 1 plus base pass effect, plus flat bass substat, plus receiving pass effect. Pretty much what they're trying to tell you is you're going to be looking at the pass of the passer. You're going to look at the pass of the substats, and I'm surprised they're not talking about the skills that then multiply that though. So base pass effect. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Base pass, the effect of pass buffers, and then you look at the subs on your stones. That's how you do it. So if, for example, you have 100 pass, you have 20 pass on your stones, and 50 multiplier, it makes 100 times 50, make 150, and at the end of that value, you're going to be adding the flat pass of the sub, so 20. So it makes 170. And then you're going to multiply 170 by the receiving value of pass effect, because a lot of players have increased receive pass effect. For example, someone running SOB. So that's going to multiply it a second time, making the flat pass substats much more valuable. Because, you know, multiplying them always helps, and endgame, this is something you're going to actually be looking towards. There are no subs for receiving pass effect, but there are a lot of pass substats you can aim for your passer. I've seen a few having 3, 4, even 600 in sub pass. It goes a little bit hard when you want to go above 400. Then you got to like really work on your subs, but it's doable. Even shitty passers can have stuff like that. Now there's critical. That's something that RNG, that a lot of us hate. So how does critical damage work? So if you crit, multiply critical damage, increase damage to goalkeeper, elemental advantage, all shots deal. I think they're explaining that underneath, so I'm going to go back to that. But critical damage is very simple to calculate. Critical damage is going to be whatever critical damage value you have. You do 1 point that value, and then you multiply the damage. So, for example, if I hit for 100, I have a critical damage of 60%. I now hit for 160. If I have 200%, I hit for 300. So this is why, for example, Vonchi really wants to crit. So you got to be really sure to be 100% clear you can crit. Increased damage to goalkeepers. Certain strikers have this skill. For example, Ardor critical damage. Char, a lot of them have stuff like that. This is a bit more complicated because you need to look at the opposing goalkeeper's damage decrease, reverse it, so you're looking at the damage they can take, and then multiply that by the damage increase. This is why it's extremely powerful in PvE, and it's much weaker in PvP because we have higher damage decrease. Of course, elemental advantage also causes a form of damage increase, and shots dealt 1 point of damage to goalkeepers. Oh, I don't remember this part, but okay. Pre-damage, damage reduction applied to goalkeeper. Then you're going to calculate penetration. So penetration is a very important substat, especially in PvP, because it lowers the damage decrease that a goalkeeper has by 1%. So they take the DR of the goalkeeper, and then they're going to divide it by, well, multiply it by half the penetration. So, for example, if you have 100 damage decrease, you have 100% penetration, you have 50% damage decrease. Just be careful because this used to not have a divider by 2, so 100% penetration meant 0 DR back in the day. So if you see guides, just be careful about that. Then you have defense DR that is applied. It's unaffected by anything except minus defense skills. And nowadays, it will also increase your chance of co-op defense if you're not even looking at the goalkeeper. Now that I don't think, well, for co-op defense, it's 600 or 800 the max. So yeah, 800 is pretty good. 800 points is around 68% of DR. It's pretty damn good. It lowers the damage. It has kind of some DR values attached to it. Stacking defense never hurts, just you can't stack it that easily and people just go for DR. It isn't even that bad. Reducing damage if attacking party at an elemental disadvantage. So if you're at a disadvantage, no, nothing happens. If yes, decrease incoming damage by 25%. I also do want to point out, just when we're looking at this, I know it's not written, but also look at elemental resistant totems. They're also a special kind of decrease in incoming damage that you're not able to debuff. So that's a little issue. A lot of people have tested. It seems you can't debuff it. So yeah. Increase critical rate damage to skill effect. Yeah, dribble or have it percent of total damage. Yeah, that just look at the skills of people doing active skills to you. Increase rate damage, elemental skill effect, Char and Shanti. That's for very specific players that do increase damage on blah blah element. That's also like pretty fine. I don't think we need to complicate that. It's the exact opposite of decreased damage per element. If the unit is penetrating from the goalkeeper, yeah, if you penetrate or steal, you do less damage. That's just a rule. It's normally 30% unless something else is going wrong. If not, you don't have a reduced damage. It's a goalkeeper. You're not supposed to be penetrating it. Because again, if you're penetrating, you can keep the ball and keep doing it over and over. I know Infinity Shoes a thing, so yeah. Now, how many units are you fighting against? It's very simple. The more units, you just divide by the number. I don't think it can actually go above 3. I haven't seen that. I'm hoping it never will. So goalkeeper and two assisters, it divides it by 2. This is why most of the time you want to try a force of 1v1, and that's why a lot of people try to stop you from going in a 1v1. I mean, I have Leia specifically to block 1v1s. And that should give you the final damage output. I'm going to be putting the link of this in the description below. But I hope this helps you guys just have a little understanding on exactly how damage works and points out a few little facts about elemental resistance. It's going to give you some pretty good value. It's nice to see an updated version of this. So hope it helps you guys. I just saw this and I thought this would be a nice thing to point out to you guys. Have a good day. And if you have any questions, comment, or additional thing you want to point out, just write it in the comments below.